Hello, my name is Sandra Grinschke and I will present you a selection of our research in the project Offloading Working Memory with Cognitive Interfaces. First, what is cognitive offloading? Cognitive offloading is the use of physical action to alter the information processing requirements of a task. So you can, for example, use your smartphone to perform a task such as remembering an appointment. This externalization helps to reduce cognitive demands because you don't have to memorize the appointment yourself anymore. Cognitive offloading can take many forms and is present in our daily lives. You could also use your smartphone as a calculator instead of doing mental arithmetics, or as a navigation system instead of finding your way yourself. All these externalizations help us to overcome limitations of internal cognitive processing and save internal cognitive resources. Cognitive interfaces such as smartphones and tablets connect us extended mind and support our everyday life. In our project on cognitive offloading, we investigated two main research questions. First, we investigated if and how the intuitive control of modern mobile touch devices influences the offloading of working memory processes. We therefore performed one study investigating different tool designs and cognitive offloading. Further, as a second research question, we focused on how cognitive offloading affects the formation of long-term memory. In 3 experiments, we investigated the trade-off of cognitive offloading, the intentional formation of long-term memory, and the effects of forced cognitive offloading. Before I tell you more about our experiments, I will show you our offloading task, the better-than-copied task. The better-than-copied task is a working memory task that exceeds working memory capacity and therefore requires offloading. In this task, the participants have to copy a color pattern from a model window into an empty workspace window. The participants can switch between the 2 windows as often as they want, but they are never visible at the same time. So the participants can either look at the model window or rebuild the pattern by dragging objects into the workspace window. Within this task, we measure cognitive offloading with, for instance, the copy cycles, so how many times the participants change between the 2 windows, where a higher number of changes indicates more cognitive offloading and less memorized information. With this task, we investigated our first research question, namely if the intuitive control of mobile touch devices supports cognitive offloading in the better-than-copied task. We therefore manipulated interface and interaction design. As a manipulation of interface design, the participants could either look up the model window whenever they wanted, without any associated costs. This is the no lockout condition. This condition is similar to using a new mobile touch device that reacts very fast to your input, whereas the other condition refers to a rather slow device that takes some time to react to your input. In this lockout condition, the participants had to wait 2 seconds each time before opening the model window. They experienced high temporal costs of cognitive offloading. With regard to interaction design, we manipulate the control type of the used tablet device. The participants either controlled them by the touch function or with a computer mouse. We hypothesized that no costs, so no lockout, should lead to more cognitive offloading. And we also hypothesized a main effect of the control of the mobile touch device on offloading behavior, but have not indicated any direction of this effect, as studies show conflicting results with regard to the intuitivity of different control types. So, what did we find? In this graph, you can see the number of copy cycles, where a higher number of copy cycles indicates more cognitive offloading. As expected, we found more offloading in the no lockout condition compared to the lockout condition. Also, participants who used the touch function of the tablet device showed more offloading behavior than participants who used the computer mouse. In an additional questionnaire at the end of the experiment, the participants indicated the touch-based control to be more intuitive than the mouse-based control, which might have caused this increase in offloading behavior. To summarize, the study confirmed that both interface and interaction design alter offloading behavior. Especially low temporal costs and the touch-based control support cognitive offloading. So, with regard to the easy access of modern mobile touch devices, and hence the possibility to offload cognitive processes extensively, we have to think about the consequences of cognitive offloading. On the one hand, cognitive offloading can extend our internal cognitive processing and therefore improve cognition as well as immediate task performance. But on the other hand, initial evidence suggests negative effects of offloading on long-term memory. To investigate these consequences of cognitive offloading, we adapted the pattern copy task. In this version of the task, the participants had to copy distinct ground patterns of images from a model window into the workspace window. After multiple trials with new images and new ground patterns on each trial, the participants performed a memory test at the end of the experiment. In this test, they were presented with the ground pattern and a set of images, including the images that belong to the pattern and new distractor images. The participants then had to rebuild the pattern from their memory. In this task, we measured memory performance with, for instance, identity location bindings, so how many images were correctly placed in the pattern, including the correct location. In our first study investigating the consequences of cognitive offloading, we focused on the potential trade-off of offloading. We manipulated the costs of offloading with a no-lockout versus lockout condition. As dependent variables, we measured cognitive offloading and immediate task performance within the pattern copy task. Further, we also measured subsequent memory performance in the surprising memory test at the end of the experiment. We hypothesized that participants in a no-lockout condition offload more than participants in a lockout condition. Further, more offloading should increase immediate task performance, but at the same time decrease subsequent memory accuracy. So let's look at the results, starting with offloading behavior. As hypothesized, participants in the no-lockout condition offloaded more than participants in the lockout condition. With regard to immediate task performance, we've here depicted the trial duration, and participants in the no-lockout condition performed the task faster than participants in the lockout condition. With regard to subsequent memory performance, here the identity location bindings are shown. A higher number indicates a better memory accuracy. Participants in the no-lockout condition showed a lower memory performance than participants in the lockout condition. Therefore, in this experiment, as expected, we indeed found a trade-off between immediate benefits and subsequent risks of cognitive offloading. Offloading increases immediate task performance, but at the same time decreases subsequent memory accuracy. But what still remains unclear is how the explicit intention to foster long-term memory alters the consequences of cognitive offloading. On the one hand, offloading is supposed to release internal cognitive resources which can be used for learning. On the other hand, if such resources are not released, one might rather decrease offloading behavior to foster learning. This could be counted as a self-generated desirable difficulty. To test this competing hypothesis, we performed a third study. We again manipulated the costs of offloading as well as the announcement of the upcoming memory test. The participants were either informed about the memory test and therefore had the goal to increase their long-term learning, or they did not know about it. In line with our previous studies, we hypothesized more offloading in the no-lockout compared to the lockout condition. Further, we were interested in the effects of our independent variables, so costs of offloading and the announcement of the memory test, on subsequent memory performance. First, with regard to cognitive offloading, we found two main effects and no interactions. Participants in the no-lockout condition offloaded more than participants in the lockout condition. Also, participants who did not know about the memory test offloaded more than participants who knew about it. With regard to subsequent memory performance, we also observed two main effects. Participants in the no-lockout condition who offloaded more showed a lower subsequent memory performance than participants in the lockout condition. Also, participants who did not know about the memory test and offloaded more showed a lower memory performance than participants who knew about it. We therefore did not find a positive effect of released internal cognitive resources due to cognitive offloading, but rather participants avoided the release of cognitive resources in order to enhance their subsequent performance. To further investigate if cognitive offloading is detrimental for long-term memory under all circumstances, in the fourth study we introduced a forced offloading condition. In this experiment, the participants were either informed about the upcoming memory test or they did not know about it. Additionally, the participants could either freely choose their offloading behavior or they were forced to offload maximally. Thus, they could only copy one image at a time before opening the model window again, and therefore had to switch between the two windows at least 12 times to copy 12 images. We expected less offloading in the choice condition than maximally offloading in the forced condition. Further, we were interested in how the announcement of the memory test and the offloading manipulation impact subsequent memory performance. With regard to cognitive offloading, we found a lower number of copy cycles in the choice condition than maximally possible. Unlike the previous experiment, we observed no difference in offloading behavior based on the announcement of the upcoming memory test within the choice condition. With regard to memory performance, we observed an interaction effect. Participants in the forced condition who also did not know about the memory test performed worse than all other conditions. Therefore, maximally offloading in an incidental learning setting harmed memory acquisition. Interestingly, participants in the forced condition who also knew about the memory test performed similar to participants in the choice conditions who offloaded substantially less. Thus, with an explicit instruction to build strong long-term memory representations, the detrimental effects of maximally offloading could be eliminated. To sum up, in this experiment we observed that the detrimental effects of cognitive offloading can be counteracted if necessary. However, under free choice conditions, all experiments showed that more cognitive offloading was associated with a lower subsequent memory accuracy. To conclude, in our first experiment we observed that especially the easy and intuitive control of mobile touch devices enhances cognitive offloading. Further, cognitive offloading increased immediate task performance. Thus, external tools can be seen as more reliable than internal cognitive processing and indeed act as extended mind. However, cognitive offloading also decreased subsequent memory performance under free choice conditions. This might be due to a less deep processing of the information at hand. When there is the explicit intention to foster long-term memory, the detrimental effects of offloading could be compensated. When offloading behavior itself cannot be reduced, individuals might be able to use released internal resources to form long-term memory. This highlights the importance of an explicit goal for learning when using modern mobile touch devices. With this, I would like to come to an end. Thank you for listening and let us know if you have any questions.